to the Momnificent Podcast. This is the place where we help parents live a happy, healthy life with their kids. We're going to show you how to connect with your child and help them even in their most difficult moments as we hear from experts in the field. I'm your host, Dr. Karin Jakubowski, an international speaker, public school principal, and former struggling student. The Momnificent Podcast equips parents with science-based strategies to help you live a happy, healthy life with your kids. Welcome.
In our busy lives, it's hard to stop and take a breath and just let things go. Well, Dr. Darlene Mininni is joining me today to tackle the problem of stress and anxiety. Darlene is the author of the Emotional Toolkit and creator of the UCLA undergraduate well-being course, Life Skills. Today, we're going to find out how we can start using mindfulness and meditation to reduce stress and how to fit it into our very, very busy schedules, wherever you might be today. Darlene, welcome to Momnificent.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here, Karen.
So Darlene, I was hoping you could take us back to how you started off with mindfulness, and maybe first explaining like what mindfulness is and describe it, because so many people hear it. It's such a buzzword right now, but then sometimes when you get to the bottom of it, it's like, wait, what is it really?
Right. What is that? Well, for me, I got into it because at the time I was teaching at UCLA and also getting my doctorate full time and kind of stressed a little bit, crazy. And I was just looking for something to help me feel more grounded so that when challenges or crises came at me, I wasn't so thrown. And I had a psychologist friend that said, you should try mindfulness. And I'm like, what is that? What is mindfulness? And so I went and I took a class and I just felt that it gave me so much relief. And it was just such a wonderful thing for me. That I became really, really interested in it. And when I started teaching undergraduates at UCLA who were also dealing with a lot of stress, I started incorporating that into the teaching with undergraduates. And I will start off by saying that there are many things that can give you that sense of relief. Some people it's exercise, some people it's playing the piano, so it's not the only thing in the world. Everybody has to find their thing. But this is a very wonderful thing. And there's a lot of research and data on it. And so the question is, what is it, right? So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is described as paying attention to the present moment without judgment. So whatever's happening for you right now, you're present with it without saying, this is great or this is terrible. You just kind of see it for what it is. And once we talk more, I'll explain how you do that, because that would be my question. Like, how do you do that? And what we know from some of the studies coming out of Harvard is that almost 50% of the time, people report that whatever they're doing right now, whether it's cooking or driving or whatever, people are not paying attention to what they're doing. They're thinking about something else. I mean, guilty, right? Yes, all of us. And it's very natural to do this. What happens oftentimes while you're doing whatever you're doing, you might be thinking about the future. And especially in this time in the life we're in right now, you might be thinking about, what if this doesn't happen? What if it does happen? What am I going to do here? When will this end? And our mind takes us to the future, and that creates anxiety. Or we think about the past, about I shouldn't have done that, or that didn't work out, or, I wish it would have been different. And that creates sadness. And so what the studies have found is that when you can stay focused on the present moment, people tend to be happier. And then my thought was, well, what if the thing you're thinking about was really a good thing? Like, what if it's like anticipation of a vacation or some great memory? Isn't that good? And they have actually found that even when you're thinking about something great, you're not as happy as when you're focused on the present, even, and this blew me away, even if what you're doing in the present is not something that you like doing. Isn't that weird? So So mindfulness is this ability to focus on what you're doing in the present and just be with what you're doing. And when you get pulled away, you just notice, oh, there's that thought I'm thinking, and you come back to whatever it is that you're doing.
Thank you for sharing that. So I think people are sometimes afraid to be mindful. Like they're afraid they're going to miss something, right? Or they're afraid it's too hard to do, or maybe they won't plan for the future if they're only thinking about the present. So do you have any suggestions, first of all, how to manage that sort of, it's uncomfortable for me to be in the moment experience?
Yeah. Well, you know what I used to tell my students is plan for the future, but don't live there. So, in other words, of course, we have to plan for the future. Of course, we have to think ahead, right? We need to make a dentist appointment. We have to go to the DMV, like all these things we have to do. So of course, as human beings in our world, we must think about the future. But there's a difference between thinking and planning for the future and living there. And sometimes, we can be, especially if you're a parent, you're thinking about your child and their homework and what's going to happen. What are we going to do if I'm late and daycare and so what are we going to do in the summer and with COVID, how's this going to be working? And we are constantly living in the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And so I have to say it is a skill to not do that. Oh, actually, let me take that back. It's a skill to know how to pull yourself away when you do that, because our brains are designed to plan for the future as a way to keep us safe. And so it's very natural that we do that, but it doesn't serve us in our well-being, because the brain that we have right now was developed million years ago. And right now in this particular year, it doesn't always serve us very well to be constantly thinking about what could go wrong. And it's actually called, you might be familiar with the term, the negativity bias. Our brain is hardwired, right, to look around and say, what could go wrong, and that makes us unhappy. If we're always scared. It was great when we lived in the cave times and we were watching out for an attacking tribe or a lion or a storm. And the people who were very successful at always looking at what went wrong tended to survive. And then they passed those brains on to us. And that's the brain we have that's always saying, what if the hot water heater blows? What if my car doesn't work? What if my child gets the flu? That's where we're at. So it is a skill that we need to practice to learn to say, oh, there's that thing I'm doing. I'm thinking about those things that come back to the present moment. And if you have the skill, it doesn't mean you'll never do it again. It just means that when you do it, you'll know how to say, oh, I'm going to come back now.
And I like how you touched on well-being, because can you tell us the story about you where you dealt with some health almost crises, right? And you realized like something was causing, I like to say, the dis-ease that caused a disease, or it could be, and how mindfulness kind of helped you out of that?
I'm not sure if you're referring to something specific.
Oh no. What was there a time when you had like a physical ailment, or you realized like the stress in life was just physically
Well, I mean,
impacting you,
I
or maybe
can
not?
maybe, yeah, may not nothing specific, but
Okay.
as my training is in health psychology. So this is really well known that there's a link between our stress and our health. And if our nervous system is always on, especially right now with everything's happening in our world, people have trouble sleeping. They lay in bed and they're thinking and thinking. There's so much that's going on that it wears down our immune system. We have people have high blood pressure, they have stomach troubles, digestion issues. It's just so being able to be present. It sounds so simple, but it is not an easy thing to do. And I teach this, and sometimes I got to remind myself, oh, right, I know how to do this. And so there's so much good to come out of learning how to do this. And with your health benefits of having it, when you do it, there's health benefits. You're happier, you're more people, it turns out to be more successful. But it really does take practice to be able to do it.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned it. It's like a skill.
It is
Like,
completely a skill.
And sometimes people are like, well, I tried it once. Maybe I tried a couple times, but
Well,
yeah.
that happened to me, Karen. That happened to me. It's like I
So
read
what
all the
now?
books, I took the class, and I practiced, and I would do it. I'm like, and then I would be doing it for 10 minutes. I'm like, I don't feel any different. I feel the same as I felt before. This doesn't work, right? But then I realized that the analogy is sort of like lifting weights. You wouldn't go to a gym and pick up 10-pound weights and do a couple of reps and put it down and go, where's my muscle? I don't have a muscle. You realize that you need to keep going back, and over time you get stronger and stronger, and you start to feel they start to slowly see your muscle get tighter. And that's kind of what this is like. You do a little bit over time, and you find that you're able to hold your attention longer and longer, and you become more focused. And this is what I have seen. I mean, the data shows this to be true, but I've also seen this in real time with my students. When I would very first, it was a long time ago when I started teaching it, when mindfulness was a really new concept and people didn't know much about it. And they're like, why are we doing this? This is dumb, But by the time we start to get to week 2 and 3 and 4, people would be like, wow, I don't feel so stressed. What's wrong with me? There must be something wrong with me because I'm not worrying all the time. And that it kind of creeps up on you. That's how it would happen to me. I'm feeling better, but nothing in my life has changed. I can't point to, well, this good thing happened or that. I just felt better and I didn't really understand why. So it's a slow thing that you commit to doing a little bit at a time. And if you stay with it, for most people, not everybody, again, it's everybody has their thing, but for a lot of people, this has turned out to be something like it's very helpful.
so what can we share with our listeners that they will do in this first step of a process in this mindful like
What?
walk us through like what your simple practice is.
Okay, well, there's 2 ways you can approach this. And this is something I think a lot of people are confused about. So I want to clear this up. I don't think people talk about this much. And that's the difference between mindfulness and mindfulness meditation. Okay, because they're a little bit different. And this is helpful for you to know how much you want to commit to doing on any given day, right? Depending on your schedule and your life. So the best way to explain the difference between mindfulness and mindfulness meditation is if you look at the difference between movement and exercise. So throughout our day, we move our body, right? We get up out of our chair, we walk to our car, we're always moving in some capacity. But we may make a decision, I really want to do some intense moving, right? I want to really kind of amplify the impact I can get from my moving. So I'm going to exercise. I'm going to set some time aside and I'm going to swim. I'm going to run. I'm going to dance. I'm going to do something for a certain amount of time that I'm going to kind of up the ante on my moving, get my heart going, pick up something heavy. And you might see that you accelerate your strength or your flexibility because you've dedicated time to doing intensive moving, which we call exercise. So it's the same thing here. Mindfulness is something that we can do in any moment of our life. Maybe you're helping your child with your homework. And as you're sitting at the table with her, you start thinking about all the things you need to do tomorrow. And then you go, there I am thinking about something else. I'm going to come back to focusing on this math homework. And you wander, you come back and you be present with your child. So that's mindfulness. I'm being mindful. I'm being in the moment with her doing homework. I'm not thinking about what I need to do tomorrow. All right. Mm-hmm. Then you say, well, I want to amp up this mindfulness a little bit. I want to do it intensely so I can maybe get more of a, impact. So I'm going to set aside time, just like exercise. I'm going to set aside 5 minutes. And for those 5 minutes, I'm just going to sit and I'm going to focus on one thing. And it could be your breath. That's kind of the conventional thing you hear a lot about, focus on your breathing, but it doesn't have to be. Could be the sounds that you hear, could be the feeling of your back against your chair. And for 5 minutes, I'm not going to do anything but focus on that. And every time my mind wanders, because it's going to wander, because that's what brains do, I'm going to notice it and I'm going to come back. And when 5 minutes is up, then I'm done. And so that was mindfulness meditation. So you can practice meditation or you can practice mindfulness. You could do both. And some days might be busy and you won't have time to sit and do meditation, but you can be mindful in your day-to-day. When I used to meditate 30 minutes every day, and then I became a mom, that was over. So I had to find a way, how can I infuse this into my day-to-day life? Right. And so that's called meditation in action, right? So the way you do that is typically you use your five senses, right? Sight, hearing, smell, right? So I would do my meditation in action while I'm brushing my teeth. Instead of brushing my teeth and thinking about, okay, I got to go to the store, I got to get gas, I got to go here, no, I'm brushing my teeth. I'm noticing the smell of the Crest toothpaste, the feeling of the color of the suds on my teeth, the feeling of the toothbrush in my mouth. And whenever my mind would wander for that minute or two that I was brushing my teeth, I would completely focus on teeth brushing. That's meditation in action. Dedicated. You're not sitting, but you're meditating. You could do it in the shower. The smell of the soap, the feeling of the suds, the warmth of the water. When my mind wanders, I just come back. For the 5 minutes I'm in my shower, I am meditating. I used to meditate in my car when I would pull into UCLA. Before I would get out, I would sit for 5 minutes in my car and just breathe and notice the feeling of the chair on my back. I was meditating. You meditate how you can, so there's many ways to do it.
Does it matter how long you do it? Like, just is there a difference between just doing it 5 minutes a day or doing it longer?
So there are various studies that say different things. The most common is that between 10 and 20 minutes is what you would need to start rewiring your brain, because your brain actually does become rewired. And the left prefrontal cortex lights up more which is the pleasure, like kind of the happier area of your brain. It tends to build that portion of your brain, which is why people go, I feel better, but I don't know why. It's actually an organic thing. Having said that, what I will also say is that whatever you can do is a good thing, right? Because I've had students say, well, I can't do 10 minutes, so I might as well not do it at all. No. You should do it. When I first started doing it, all I could do was 5 minutes. That's great. 5 minutes every day is really great to start building a habit. And if you can do more, you do more. Whatever you're doing is a good thing to do. You don't need to go like on a retreat in the mountains somewhere for days at a time. If you could do 5 minutes every day, 5 minutes when you lay your head down on the pillow before you go to sleep, notice the feeling of the pillow on your skin, the weight of the blanket on your shoulders before you go to sleep. Good for you. You're in the game. You're in the game.
Because sometimes that's all I have.
Exactly. Me too.
And instead of not doing it all, it's okay to be like, you know what, these 2 minutes, or as I'm falling asleep, or as I'm brushing my teeth, or making dinner. Do you think that's why, I wonder if kids are so much happier because they're living in the present moment and they don't have all those thoughts of the future and the past?
Yes, I very much agree. Not only kids, I mean, whenever I see a dog in a car, you're driving a car and the dog's in the back with his ears flopping and his tongue. And I love that. And it's because the dog is not, he's just in that moment, right?
In the present moment. Yes.
Kids, and I'm not saying that kids don't have worries. They do.
They do.
They have kid
right.
worries. They have
that
seem inconsequential sometimes to us, but they are significant and big kid worries. However, when they get lost in play, when they're in that state of flow, right? And they're coloring, or they're on the playground, or they're talking to a friend, they're immersed in that. And we can become immersed in things as well. And that's a whole other thing. When time stops and you forget where you are, Finding those activities. And that's why mindfulness can be done while you're crocheting. It can be done while you're, I talk to a lot of people about what are you doing while we were sequestered at home. And people say, I'm cooking. I never cook. And I love to cook, or I'm reading, or I'm walking, or I'm doing yoga. They're immersing themselves in activities that they may not have the time to do. And so I don't think you need to do this for 60 minutes sitting with your legs crossed and, humming, right? I think if you could do 5 minutes where you just, the only thing I would say is, you don't need to sit like a pretzel. You don't need to wear special clothes. If you can just find a place that you feel safe and you won't be interrupted for 5 minutes, and just be with whether it's your breath. Some people are more comfortable with other things, like, it gives you a moment of peace away from all the things you have to do on your list, all the things you're thinking about, all the responsibilities that you have, all the things you have to decide. It's so much sometimes that just to have even 5 minutes where it's gone, or it's still there, but okay, I'm not going to think about you right now. I'm just going to think about this feeling of my back against this chair. And the science hasn't really quite figured out what it is about the present moment that can be so restorative, but it is.
Wow. And I think sometimes I feel like I need a beach, I need a park to practice in. Although, like, I would never mindfully meditate if I was always searching for that. So what's the kind of setup someone might need to do this? What does it require? I mean, you touched on that a little bit. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Well, first of all, a beach is a great thing to go to. I mean, forget mindfulness. If you can go to the beach, like, I'm lucky I live on the coast in California, so I can go to the beach anytime I want. And a lot of times if I do go to the beach, I will meditate on the waves. Because I can sit on a beach and be thinking about all the stuff I need to be doing. And I have to go food shopping after I leave the beach. And I hope nobody hit my car in the parking lot. It's like, and I'm not even at the beach. I'm somewhere else. And then I leave and I go, gee, I don't even remember the beach, right? So if you go to the beach, be at the beach. If you go to the park, be at the park. Watch the waves come in, listen to the sound of the waves, hear the birds, smell the salt air, notice the blue, be at the beach, right? Having said that, if you want to be mindful, you don't need to be at a beach. You don't need to be at a park. There's no special setup. You can sit on the floor. You can sit in your chair. You can, like, I'm here in my office right now. I could just at this moment sit here and, be mindful. There's no, sometimes people get confused with the dogma. Do I need to wear special tights? Do I need to put my hands in a special way? You don't. I really like what Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is a very renowned researcher and teacher of mindfulness. And if anybody's looking for somebody to read, Jon Kabat-Zinn's book is wonderful. The title of Wherever You Go, There You Are. I just adore that title. Maybe if I go to the beach, I'll be calm. Well, I don't know. If you weren't calm before, you might not be calm at the beach either, Learning to be calm wherever you are is the greater skill. And that's not an easy skill at all. But there's no particular way. Oh, so what he says is just sit in a way that embodies dignity, Mm-hmm. And what I will say biologically is that when your spine is straight, it sends a message to your brain that it's time to be awake. So sometimes for people, when they lay down and try to be meditating, they fall asleep. So when you sit up, your brain goes, oh, we're awake now. I get it. Okay. So that can be helpful for people to try to sit upright as opposed to laying down. Having said that, if you like to lay down and that works for you, the idea is that you have control over the process. You want to open your eyes, you can open them. If you want to focus on sounds of the cars on your street, the birds outside, if that's better than your breathing, find something that works for you. It's called your anchor of attention. Just find an anchor of attention and fully expect that as you focus on it, your mind will wander. And when it does, you didn't do anything wrong. It means that you have a brain, and brains are supposed to think, and it's just doing its thing. And you just notice, just like when you're a child, I mean, when your kids were little and they would head over to the light socket and you'd say, oh, no, let's go over here. Look at this toy, right? And then they go back to the light socket. No, let's go right. That's what you're doing. Your mind is going over here to your worries, and you go, oh, there's that thought again. Come back to my breathing. Oh, there's that thought again. Come back to my breathing. And every time you bring your thought back, that is meditation. You build strength of attention and focus by bringing it back over and over. You'll never get to the point where you never think about anything. It's just not the way the brain works.
Yeah, that's so natural. And I love how bringing it back is the mindfulness, which is what sometimes I think like, well, because my mind can't be still, I can't do it. So I love that you just taught us that. That's really, really helpful. So can you go back to if you have trouble going to sleep, like what were those strategies you were saying? Or is there something you would say, even if a parent had a child who the child had trouble going to sleep, is there something a child you could help their?
Yeah. So the rule of thumb is to think about how can you use your five senses, all right? So think about the five senses. You may have a preference for one: sight, smell, hearing, taste, touch, right? So if it's for you, and I do this, if I can't sleep and I know I got to get up, and I'm finding like, oh my God, I'm looking at the clock. Now I have less hours of sleep, and you find you're making yourself, then as I was mentioning earlier, that's what I do. I notice the feeling of the pillow on my face or the weight of the blanket. If your child is having difficulty sleeping, and this is what's so great, is you can teach them these self-soothing strategies at a young age. And first of all, by letting them see you do it. And I did this when my daughter was little. I remember once she lost her doll and she was really upset. And I said, okay, before we look for your doll, let's sit down for a second and just do a couple of we're going to breathe a little bit because it'll make our brain work better, and then we'll find your doll. And so we did a few breaths, which I'll teach you in a second. And then we were calm. Okay, now let's think, where could your doll be? And we found her. So with a child, you can say, oh, I can see it's hard tonight to sleep. And we all have that. Sometimes it's hard and sometimes it's easy. That's really normal. And let me show you what I do when I have some trouble sleeping, and let's do it together. Can you notice how soft your pillow feels? And do you feel your blanket on your skin? And I'm going to rub your back. Can you feel how my hand feels when I rub your back? And you feel it, my hand goes up, my hand goes down, and just feel round and round. Or maybe you sing to your child if that's what your child likes. Can you hear my voice when I sing to you? And every time your mind thinks about something, your friend, that fight you had, or about school, or about your worries, we're just going to come back to that feeling of my hand on your back, or the pillow on your face, or your pajamas on your skin. And we're just going to keep doing that until you get relaxed and you fall asleep, because this is what mommy does. I do this. This is what I do for me. And I like to do this. And so you're modeling, you're not just teaching, you're modeling that this is what we do, that stress is normal and natural, and you're not doing anything wrong if you feel stressed. And there are some things we can do to make it a little bit better. And so just simple things, if you kind of infuse that into their day, if they come home and they're really upset and they're crying, okay, I want to really hear everything that went on for you. Let's first try to calm ourselves. Let's take some breaths together. And then I want to hear everything that you have to say. Can we do that? Is that okay? Yes, that's okay, Mommy. Okay, let's do that together. And then you're teaching them self-regulation. You're teaching themselves how to regulate their nervous system. So they're tipped over into their sympathetic nervous system. We want to bring them over into their parasympathetic, because we know that when people can calm themselves, they think better, they problem solve better. So you're teaching them a skill so that when they go away to college and they don't have you there, or they're off in the world working and they're working on a project and they're overwhelmed, they will know how to self-soothe and go, okay, team, let's just take a break here. Let's take a couple of breaths before we do this. This is the best gift you can give your kids.
And that it's okay that you
Yes.
can't sleep that night. It's okay that you got upset. Like it's not like no you can't or something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
I like that part of it. Like you're just teaching them that hey, if you can't fall asleep tonight, like that happens to all of us. Not that there's something
Yeah.
different or abnormal or because that could also create additional problems of thoughts that maybe
Right.
I'm the only one who faces this or maybe there's something wrong with me. Nope, there's nothing wrong with you, and here's
Right.
something we're gonna do that's gonna help you. I love that.
Yeah, you're validating as opposed to saying, "Oh, it wasn't that big a deal," or "I'm sure it'll be okay."
Right.
We want to validate that this is a feeling that everybody has, and you will continue to have it. And mommy has it all the time. It's
Yeah.
like,
And that's so
um,
healthy. That's so healthy to teach them that. Um,
so here's the phrase that if I had a mantra, this is my mantra, and it is, "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." And this goes back again to John Kabat-Zinn. You're never going to reach a point in your life when you're not stressed, when you're not overwhelmed. There's nothing wrong with you. If you feel that way, that's life. But when you have some strategies like mindfulness, and there's others, but this is one of them, you can't stop the waves of our lives, but you can surf it. And for me, having this as a tool in difficult times that I have had, and I think about one of the most difficult times in my life is when my dad died. I was so grateful that I could surf this difficult. I'm not going to make it go away. I'm not going to go, oh, that's not a big deal. No, it's a very big deal. But I got to use some of my mindfulness tools to be in the moment and to feel, okay, I'm sitting in this chair now. I'm feeling my back. I'm feeling my body. I'm feeling, like, be present. As we said earlier, being present for difficult situations can actually be easier or better for your well-being than to distract yourself with a pleasant one, which seems to make no sense. But I can tell you, in that moment, sitting in the funeral home, it was 100% true. That to be present and notice the shapes and the sounds and the colors and the music and the feelings in that moment, I was able to be calmer than if I was thinking of other moments. I can't explain why, but it was true. It was true for me.
and I think if you do that, those are moments you remember,
Yes.
right? Like life
Yes.
goes on, you do things, but it's not, I notice it's not until I actually stop and take, I don't know, stock or notice like you just described, that's that
Mm.
moment that you go back to and your memory knows it because you just embodied it and almost like you
Yeah.
checked in at that point in time. And sometimes that's all you have is those memories. But if you
Yeah.
if you don't stay connected to the present, things just happen, but you don't always remember it. And
Well,
Um,
and that's such a great point,
interesting.
Karen, because if you think about it, in 30 seconds from now, this present moment will be the past, right? It will be a memory. And so if
Yeah.
I'm fully present right now, then I have fully experienced this. I can look back and go, I was there for all of it. I was present. And which is why sometimes people say, this whole trend of going to like a concert and taking pictures of the concert, instead of being at the concert. I want to take this picture so I remember it. Well, maybe
Yeah.
maybe you should just be here.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
take it all in, the sights, the
Yeah.
sounds, and then you really will be here. I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking a photo, but
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
But to get the
There,
full,
like the full, I don't know, effect or benefit of it. I remember somebody saying, like, when
yeah,
you walk down the aisle on your wedding day, just
yes,
consciously stop and say to yourself, this is what it feels like to be a bride. Like, consciously make, and I didn't make that connection until you were just telling that
yes,
story where I was like,
yes.
that's it. In the funeral home, like, that's the moment you took, and you will never forget that. I think that's such a beautiful way to actually think of capturing moments in your life that you want to last
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway,
like your
full
child's
thought.
birthday party, instead of
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, the cake arrived late," or "What am I going to get for the gift bag?" or "These kids aren't getting along," and like, just be here, just
Yeah.
take it in. This is life,
Yeah. And
whether
it,
it's good or bad. I mean,
yeah.
this is life. Life is not always going to be easy. I don't care how much you do mindfulness. It doesn't
No,
change the fact that life can be
life is
hard,
life.
right?
But it sounds like it just enriches You can have like,
Yes.
I want to say like enriching moments.
Yeah.
That's such a
Yes.
beautiful life to live. Because it's funny because I tell people all the time, like, you're not alone. I talk to moms. I'm like, you're not alone. Like, if your kid's struggling, like, you're not alone. Yes, it looks like on Facebook we all have these perfect lives, but those are moments. We all have great moments, but we all have like normal stuff that, like, bad breath, bad hair day, like, can't find anything to wear,
Yeah.
fresh. Like, but I love how what you're saying. It just helps us almost frame it around like seeing being able to know that I could experience an enriching moment in my life and I have complete control over that and no one can take that from me. No one gives that, no one takes it from you.
Yeah.
That's our choice and you're helping us see that today, which is so beautiful. So what if I'm practicing mindfulness meditation and feelings come up? Like, how do I address that? What do I do
So, people have felt different feelings when they do mindfulness meditation. A popular feeling is boredom. This is boring because we're used to a lot of stimulation and the idea of just sitting there doing nothing, especially if we believe we should always be productive and doing something and accomplishing things. It can be a struggle to sit there and it could feel frustrating. And that's just something to notice. Isn't that interesting? When I do nothing, where else in life do I feel this way? What is this connected to? It can be very raise your awareness of how I am in life. Having said that, then there may be times for some people though when it's more than just a feeling of boredom or frustration, but it's much more intense. Some people experience more intense feelings, more challenging feelings. And if that's the case, there are a few things you can try that might help you feel more in control of the experience. One is you don't need to close your eyes. A lot of times people will think I've got to close my eyes and be here. You don't have to. For some people, closing their eyes can be uncomfortable. So if you're not comfortable with that, don't do it. This is your thing. The other thing is if it's feeling really uncomfortable, instead of sitting, you might want to move when you do this. Some of my students had trouble sitting for a variety of personal reasons. It was difficult for them to sit. So we crafted a meditation where they walked. As they walked around campus, they would notice, again, the senses, right? They notice, oh, the bricks are square and there's green on them. And I'm listening to the birds and I'm noticing how my feet feel when they hit the pavement. And I'm like, they moved their bodies. So for some people, moving meditation is much more compatible with their biology and their experience than sitting and closing their eyes. And the other thing that people can do is they can use different anchors, as we alluded to earlier. For some people, many meditations will guide you on the breath. Breathe in, breathe out. And that's a very popular thing to do for a variety of reasons. But for some people, that's very uncomfortable to do, and it could be very triggering. And so find something else to focus on. It doesn't have to be your breath. It just has to be something that's stable in the world. So it could be, as I mentioned, could be the feeling of your feet on the floor, the feeling of your chair on your back, your clothes on your skin. It could be that feeling. It could be a sound, the sound of the birds, the cars going by, the dog that's barking. It could be something outside. I did it once. I led a group once. We were in a room and the air conditioner was humming and people were like, oh, so I said, let's make that our anchor. We're all going to focus on the sound of the air conditioning. Notice the nuance, how it gets louder and how it gets lower and it's hissing and what is it? And that became our anchor. So you don't have to make it breathing. The key is that you feel a sense of control over the experience and that it works for you. And if you find that it's just really difficult to do, then it could be that this is not your strategy. You might choose a different strategy, like I said, journal writing, exercising, yoga, playing the piano, knitting. There might be other things that give you that sense of being present in the moment. Lots of data that shows this is effective, but it may not be effective for everybody.
I think that's a really good point because you hear it, mindfulness, and you hear people talk about, or either I can't, or people who totally love it. But I love how you're just framing it like, try it. And if it's something that works for you, like, that's great. And if it's not, like, that's okay too. Again,
Right, because
there's nothing wrong with you. But sometimes we think of something that everybody's doing,
That's
and then it's
it.
like, crap, I can't. And then you're worse off that you even learned about mindfulness, because now you're beating yourself up that you don't do it, which is,
I've had so many people say that to me. I tried mindfulness and I failed, or I'm no good
I
at it.
feel like
You can't not be good at
as
it.
if there's something bad or
Yeah.
wrong. You put it.
It might
I
not be the
love how
thing for
helped us.
you, but
Yeah,
you're not failing. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that.
so lastly, is there one thing that you would suggest that our listeners could start doing today, right now? And I know there's a 3-3-6 method that you use. I don't know if you're going to share that one, but I really liked that when I heard it.
You like that one?
But if you want to say that one and another one, go for it.
I have had students like from 15 years ago call me and say, I was taking my LSATs for law school, and I did the 3-3-6 breathing before I took it, or I had to give a speech and I did the 3-3 before I went to the podium. It's like so popular. So I will say this is a breathing one. Yes, it is a breathing
it's
one.
Catchy.
It
Okay.
is catchy. Yeah, it is catchy, right? We should brand it. Okay.
And sometimes that helps us remember things. But yeah, go ahead.
It does. Okay, so what this is, and again, this is a breathing thing, so this may or may not work for you. But the whole point of the breathing thing, you're going to notice when I describe this to you that you're going to exhale longer than you inhale. And there's a reason for that. You're getting 20 times more oxygen to your brain when you have a longer exhale than an inhale, okay? And so what we're going to do is you breathe in through your nose to the count of 3. You hold it to the count of 3, and then you exhale for the count of 6. Now, if you find a 3-3-6, you get dizzy, it's too much, do 2-2-4, do 1-1-2. Don't get caught up on the number. All you want to do is know that your exhale will be longer than your inhale, and do like 2 or 3 rounds of this. Takes less than 60 seconds. You can do it online at the supermarket. Nobody will even know. You can do it at a red light in your car. I've done all of the above. And so do you want me to show you how we do this?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
go for it. Let's
Okay.
try it.
So again, you can keep your eyes open or closed, whatever is comfortable for you. And so you're going to breathe in through your nose, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, exhale through your mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, inhale, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, exhale through your mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can do that before you have a conference call, a Zoom call, before you pick your kids up from school and they're making that transition and you want to be calm. And you can do it when there are people around, like I'm doing right. I could do it right now and you wouldn't even know I was doing it, right? So like if I'm in a meeting with a staff and I'm getting stressed, I can do that in the meeting and no one will even know. Like I'll sit there in my chair in the meeting, and I've done this. Like I'm feeling my back against the chair. I'm feeling my feet on the floor. I'm breathing, and nobody has a clue that I'm doing it. And now I'm more focused. I'm not anxious and I feel better. So it's just a simple little thing. You find we tweak, we find little ways that we can bring it. The question that I tell you to ask yourself is, what small thing can I do in this moment to feel just a little bit better, right? Just a little, I don't have to feel happy and great, just a little bit better in this moment. And this is a technique that can help do that. So yeah.
Wow, Darlene, thank you so much. This has been truly valuable. I love just the little pieces that you shared that can be easy takeaways right where someone is at, whether it's the message that oh, what a relief. I realize mindfulness doesn't work for me, and that's okay. Or the little tips and tricks that you shared that I know I'm even going to use this week when I have to make a difficult, phone call, or I come in from car line and it's just crazy, and now I got to do the announcements, and then I got to walk into a meeting, and it's like, how do I get myself, to connect in that moment when I just lived through, a storm, in a sense, of anything that can be happening or hitting us, and in 2 seconds flat. So this is so valuable. And I just want to thank you for giving of your time for me and my listeners today. I can't thank you enough. So thanks for accepting this interview and call. And I just
I want to thank you, Karen, for being on the front lines, you and all your teachers that are doing heroes work every day. And
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
Just want to say thank you to you and all of them. Get a little teary here.
Well, that's all we've got for this episode of the Momnificent podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would be honored if you would subscribe and rate if you really liked it. I know wherever you're listening right now, it might not be the best time to leave a comment, but feel free to leave a question, a review, or a comment at any time. And until next time, remember, don't worry, be happy.